It being at 9 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. We've had a printed agenda submitted to us. Any changes? Look for approval.
So moved.
Motion made.
Second.
Discussion. Being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Approval of previous minutes, board meeting of January 10th. Greg, okay, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carried. Work group of last week, 17.
So moved.
I'll second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carried. At this point, it's open for public comment. Is there anybody who wishes to address by public comment? Does not appear to be. Appointments, we have none. Going on to the consent agenda, there are 5 items on the consent agenda. Yes, 5 items.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
There a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. Next to be action items. Number 1 is consider continuing Lisa Yant's employment status at 1.0 FTE. Yes.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Yes, Liza has been operating at 1 FTE for quite a period of time. I know John Puglisa as well as Karen Kohlmeyer are here and could address what all she does more directly. It does appear that it is at a rather small marginal increase in cost. Off and on, Liza's been doing this work, I believe, at 100%, going back and forth to 95% for a considerable period of time over the years. It is my understanding that she started here as a full-time employee, and there was an accommodation for a family matter that she needed to attend to that took it down to a lower hours. And so we're just recommending, HR is recommending to increase it along with, I believe it's the department's recommendation, strong recommendation to do so as well. There's been quite a bit of discussion. I know the director addressed the board quite with a lot of detail previously on this matter.
Make a motion we approve the employment status to 1.0. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Carried.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, next is consider appointing a candidate for the planning commission. We have had the opportunity to look over 2 applications. Marty is not present at this moment. If there's any question, do we want to go forward with this or wait till he comes in for next opportunity?
Well, I've had a chance to look at it too as well through the candidates. It's my wish is this vacancy is coming from my district that we appoint John Pascal to fill that opening.
Well, as I look at the list of qualifications, the experience, having done this type of work in other parts, other area already, planning commission, zoning, a lot of certificates, a lot of information, a wealth of stuff that could be brought to the table. My feeling is it's right. That's the qualifications that we're looking at.
Well, I make a motion when we appoint John Glasspool.
I'll second that. Motion made and seconded to offer the opportunity to Mr. Glasspool for the discussion.
Just a question. He lives in Long Prairie. Does she live in La Crescent Township or the city of La Crescent?
They actually own property in both. They still own the property in the township and then they own a house in the city.
Okay.
She'd be a good candidate for next year. I just look at the qualifications, look at the list of education, the background. I think it was a plus to have that information, and John surely has the opportunity in the future. Isn't there somebody else from your district also on the group at this time here?
Yes, there is. But if we went with your recommendation, then we'd have two from La Crescent as well.
Or it could be one from my districts, District 1, the city. There's nobody from this city at this time, is it?
But is that a qualification?
No, it's not.
I mean, do we have city people that serve on planning commission? I think for a while.
Commissioner.
Okay, well, that's what I mean. That's what I'm getting at.
No, I'm just pointing out the qualifications, the information that's there, and
Well, I know John, I can vouch for John real well. He's a township supervisor. He serves on the town board there. He's had a lot of interaction with planning and zoning in their own district, and they see some things that they'd like to see, looked at closely, and he's very well knowledged in all that stuff about planning and zoning, so.
One request. Can we vote by roll?
that was my suggestion. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
District 1,
No.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
No.
District 4. District 5.
Okay, what's the next action?
I'll make a motion for Cindy. Second. Cindy Wright.
Or second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Roll call again, please.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
No.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
No. Okay. Well, is this right? That should be part of that. Next is number 3, consider switching from MEND to ACH medical services for the county jail. Dirk Sweatberg or Deputy Ott, did I see? Okay.
Morning, Dean.
Morning.
How are you?
Good. I sent you guys emails regarding our jail medical for those questions that I had asked, that I had talked to you about last week. They got answered. It appears they have more insurance liability insurance than men currently carry, so that's at least appears good. The decrease in the average daily population, if there is any reported in a quarter, that they give us a credit, so that's good. This is a 1-year contract, and I think it's good that the contract expires according to the one that I gave you, January 31st of 2024, which is the same time the one contract expires as of right now. I think that's a good thing too. Then we'll have a better idea of where we're gonna sit for our average daily population moving forward before that. Cause I'll have plenty of time to maybe explore other areas right now, like I was saying, with men's bankruptcy termination date of March 1st. And now the talk of rumors of they aren't even gonna have insurance starting February 1. That's obviously put me on the coals as far as trying to get stuff done and get ACH up and running, so I don't have insurance. I don't know how they can get away with that legally, but that's what I've been hearing, so that's what I've been trying to avoid. So budgeted for 100,000 for mend, and this is gonna be 113,999. I guess I just would ask that we could move forward and sign this agreement for the one year through January 31st of 2024. With $115,000, so that would give, you know, 1,000 extra towards some mental health fees that they don't cover, that Mend had built into the contract.
So if we approve this today, there'd be no gap in coverage in our facility.
No, in fact, I already have, because they have to come in and do staff training. Before I have, which with scheduling, is a nightmare on such short notice. But I already have them all set up to come in if this is approved later this week. So to train all the staff, managed to get all the staff in, even though they work 12s to get their training done, so we can get this up and running relatively seamlessly.
So if there were ever a situation where we would want to get opt out of their contract, there's a 30-day notice.
Yeah, I believe that there is a notice that you can, just like with Just Cause, you can get out. And there's verbiage in here about termination. It says right here, there's a term and termination clause that you can get out of it if you give them enough notice.
All right. Well, I appreciate you getting back to them and getting those questions answered and getting some more details on that. So with that, I make a motion to approve the switching to ACH for the Houston County Jail contract.
Sense to me, I'll second it. Further discussion, questions?
We don't have a whole lot of choice.
No.
Got to approve it, so it's for 115,000 like you're requesting.
Oh, yep,
And that, 115 is including your motion.
Yes.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Thank you.
thank you.
Let's see, next one is consider approving cooperative agreement with Olmsted County for Department of Health Infrastructure Grant. This project is focused on developing local data for the following areas: opioids, family home visiting, and access to services. John.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Have a couple of contracts in before you today. This first one is a new agreement. Olmsted County applied for and received on behalf of the region a grant for looking at infrastructure. And the heart of this grant is data and looking at data in specific counties. So for these three areas that we chose as a group, the areas of opioids, the impact of family home visiting, and access or lack of access to services. So three distinct areas, and we're working with their their planning department, their analysts to work on that. One good thing about this, as you guys have heard about the opioid settlement and some of the responsibilities that public health and human services have, I feel like it's really good that we get a better handle on what our needs are and challenges specific to Houston County. So each of the counties will get kind of a snapshot of that through this grant. Doesn't cost the county anything. It's grant dollars for a specific time to do this data analysis for those three areas.
Questions?
Sounds like it'd be a good thing and it doesn't have a cost and we'll know, have a better handle on what needs to be done and how to do it. I'd make a motion to approve the request.
Other discussion?
Is there one other thing I can mention? I apologize, I kind of focused on opioids, but being able to get some data on the efficacy and impact of our family home visiting program, which is also a multi-county effort. And then I think all of our counties struggle with access to services and having services available for people who are eligible, have needs for those services, getting some, our experience is anecdotal. Yeah, it seems like we can't get a handle on those things, but having data to support that, it's really three things, not just the opioids.
So that's looking for more people that are have the capacity, would qualify but haven't applied.
No, the access to services is perhaps somebody who they want to stay in their home and they're eligible to receive some supportive services in the home, but there isn't a provider that's able to provide those services, Houston County, Fillmore, whatever county. It's also mental health services. Maybe we've got a child who has been diagnosed. We need to be able to coordinate those services, but they're unavailable or long wait lists, things like that. This will give us some data to say this is what it is, rather than our anecdotal experience where it seems like it's hard sometimes to find the services.
It gives us the information. Once we have the information, is it going to increase the Health and Human Services cost in order to provide it, or will we have then the opportunity to go to the state and get funding?
I think that would be our preferable path. I think what,
Sorry.
yeah. But I think what it does is it gives us a data-based context to make any kind of decisions or recommendations. And I think it gives data to support an ask of the state.
Call the question.
All those in favor of the agreement with Olmsted County, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Next will be the consider approving CREST agreement. CREST is a regional collaborative of southeastern Minnesota, coordinates mental health related services in the region. This is a 2-year contract.
Okay, this one, commissioners, this is something we've had in place for many years. I think it goes back to 1995. Again, multi-county collaborative that has really done an exceptional job coordinating adult mental health services across the region. We're able to access resources and kind of consolidate those resources to be able to have access to the types of supportive services in mental health that would be difficult for us to create in Houston County. So being part of this addresses some of that access to service concern that we have. It also provides an opportunity for us to bill some of our case management to CREST through the adult mental health initiative dollars that we pool in this collaborative. Olmsted County is the fiscal host, has been for years. This is kind of an operational thing that we've done for many, many years.
So you specified a couple of times adult. Is there a juvenile mental health agreement someplace around?
There is not. It's something we've talked about with CREST, the need, even as we've gone through different coordinators, we've said, you know, we want to work with the coordinator to kind of think about doing a similar type of thing with children's mental health, but there isn't something like that in place across multiple counties as we stand today.
I guess my question is, does this parallel Hiawatha Valley to their stuff, or is it they help each other, or parallel
Well,
or-
some of the services that we would purchase through this would be coming from the Adult Mental Health Initiative that is pooled at Olmsted County, and then we're able to work with obviously Hiawatha Valley is a vendor, other vendors.
That's a
There's-
vendor.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I was confused there for.
Yeah. We have another contract for us specifically with Hiawatha that establishes rates. I think we approved that already a couple weeks ago.
Any other question, comment? Entertain a motion? Who was that? Oh, Greg. Is there a second? I'll second it. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Next is consider approving regional mobile crisis agreement. This is a multi-county project that coordinates the mobile crisis services for counties of southeastern Minnesota. Again, this is a 2-year contract.
This is kind of something that we built through Crest. And it has, I think through Crest, several years back, they wrote and received a grant for mobile crisis. And it built infrastructure for crisis response. And what's unique about this contract is as the state saw that that was successful, not just in our region, but in others, they wanted to see it go across the whole state. And so, as is often the case, they spread the dollars coming to crisis response a little thinner. But we were really committed to saying we need to maintain the level of crisis response, not expand. This agreement is longstanding. It works with vendors like Hiawatha Valley on the east side of the region, Zumbro Valley Mental Health Center, southeast. Can't remember the name of the organization, south or on the east side of the region. They provide mobile crisis either remotely or on site. This was also the agreement that was kind of the basis that we used to leverage bonding dollars for the Southeast Regional Crisis Center in Rochester. So again, this is a long-standing agreement. One thing I'd note with this as well, it allocates grant dollars that come to the region for mobile crisis. It also requires a buy-in from the county on a per capita basis. For us, it's about $18,900 a year. We have the lowest per capita, and so our additional dollars to maintain services is 18.9 a year.
Question with regard to mobile crisis response. What does that mean?
Can you give a generic example of that?
Sure. There's say an individual has a mental health crisis. Either their family or perhaps law enforcement who is on the scene can call mobile crisis. Sometimes that response is over the phone. It's a virtual thing to help the officer or the family work through the crisis. Sometimes it's on site. They actually send out a mobile crisis team. I think
From
in this case, it would be from Nona. We made changes to this, used to be dispatched out of Rochester. So in the last contract, we set up these 3 hubs, one in Nona, one in Rochester. Far west side. We saw that as a real advantage because people were coming from not as far. It's still not mobile crisis right here in Houston County. But it's better than no mobile crisis. And so it's a combination of support that you can receive either remotely or on site. And it also works in conjunction with the mobile or with the crisis center. So for us, our staff, county staff, we don't do emergency response. So if an individual has a mental health crisis, our staff aren't responding on the scene the way we're currently figured. I see this whole thing, the whole project and where we're at think today is a meaningful step in the right direction. We need more mobile crisis.
Can law enforcement access this directly if they
Absolutely.
have a situation of a hostage deal and they're trying to deal
Yep.
with somebody? Okay.
Yep.
So this is.
Any kind of mental health crisis, and some of it is us, we need to keep working with, law enforcement and schools, different people who can access this service, so they have a better idea of what's available. And just almost a marketing of it so that those organizations and even individuals know that it's a tool in the box.
So my concern is with regard to a mobile crisis, you said it's a team, so is it always two people? Or would they send out a single individual? Then you had mentioned earlier that families could call or law enforcement could call. If the families call and there's no law enforcement there, what's the security for the mobile crisis team or individual that goes into a situation that I have concern for that individual,
Yeah.
that team.
Yeah.
From a hostility point.
Well, a couple of questions there. First of all, I don't know whether it's individual or the number of people. I have to look at that. I think I just don't know.
Conversations at Hiawatha Valley Mental Health, they're talking about sending the individuals and in order to not make the situation worse, they don't want the police there, they just want the team there. But there's a security issue as far as this team, and they go into a situation that could explode or whatever, and then you gotta.
Right. I think to your other question, as far as, do they show up without law enforcement? I think they do. And I think that it's not uncommon that if law enforcement shows up, that adds an additional degree of energy to this situation. The people who dispatch this out of Hiawatha Valley, they're trained. And so when they get a call, they assess what's going on and hopefully apply the type of service that is necessary. Maybe what they'll do, and I'm guessing this, but I do know that they triage that and decide, how volatile is the situation. They may say this is really something that needs 911 assistance as well.
So it doesn't automatically say, well, we're getting dispatched to this situation, let the sheriff's department know or be a backup. It's only as needed that they'll call law enforcement, and sometimes things can go south fast and I guess that's their bailiwick, not ours, but I agree with Commissioner Burns, saying sometimes sending an officer there was what started this mental health issue because they're anti-government or whatever. So I guess that's in their work, not ours. We're just looking.
They're sending mental health professionals, people who are very well trained and versed in working with people in crisis. That isn't a guarantee that them showing up on the scene doesn't turn out poorly, but these are folks who are familiar with working through crisis situations, as are the people who dispatch it out of each of the 3 hubs to determine how they're going to respond.
So do you keep data of how many cases you've been involved with or used this service? You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
We receive data from, there's a coordinator in the project that keeps track of all of that.
You have any idea how many times it's been used in the county?
Not nearly enough. I'd say we run in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 times a month. I think there are likely more crises than that. And that's part of trying to work with law enforcement, work with schools or whatever, so that they can better use that resource. Also to get feedback from them so that we continue to adapt the program so that it best meets the needs in more rural counties. This service is a different thing in Rochester than it is in a rural county. That's something we've worked on from its inception. So,
Any other discussion, questions? Entertain a motion?
I'll move to approve.
There a second? Is there a second?
No second.
Further discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carry.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
See, number 7, Ryan, consider approving request to trade 2 compact track loaders. Ryan or just trade?
Yep, so this will be, well, essentially, we purchased some compact track loaders with the option of trading those in for a new track loader. So we do own them, but we trade them in. So the 2 of them, the first track loader, this will be the 3rd year. It's a John Deere 333G track loader, traded in at $12.50 an hour, minimum of 400 hours of use, and usually we're using them in that 400 450 hour range. This would be the last year of this 3-year pricing schedule. So next year with that unit, if we wanted to do a trade in, it'll be potentially a different rate. The second unit is John Deere 325G. It's a little bit smaller unit at $10 per hour, minimum of 200 hours of use. And this is the first year of that trade cycle. So we had to have more years we could trade it in at the same price.
So the 333 new unit, what's going to be the new terms for that trade-in?
We don't have that yet, so that'll be determined as we go through this next year when we go to look at the next agreement. So,
But we're at the end of this 3 years for this one.
yep. So yeah, so this will be
So they didn't send you a new one for this new.
so we'll own it, and then they'll come up with a new agreement come next winter, or if we wanted to trade it in next spring. So we don't have the terms of that yet.
So we might not. Depends on what the terms are.
Correct.
On that other unit 4222, it says this the first year of a 3-year pricing schedule. Why are we looking that quick? Is it being too small or is there?
Well, it's for $2,000 a year. You could trade up to a new unit, have warranty.
It's a good point.
Yep. So you keep the warranty intact. You have a brand new unit to function. So when you look at the cost of the unit, and its life cycle cost,
It's cheap.
If that's good point. Okay.
Let's make a motion. Second, we trade.
yes. And it's going to be determined on the exact number of hours when we trade it in. So it'll be a minimum of 2,000. If we have, 2,200 hours on, it'll be $2,200.
You have made a motion
I
here.
make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Number 8 is consider approving purchase of a methyl, that last word there, MMA sealant and aggregate for sealing decks of bridges. Approve the purchase of $31,116 for the material purchase and an estimated $1,700 on shipping, with the understanding that shipping may fluctuate. Total would be approximately $32,816. This is for materials, not the machine.
This is just for materials. So historically what we've done when we do bridge deck sealing is we go out, we get quotes from contractors, and then they install that. When we look at what we've been paying in the past, it's been 20,000, 30,000 plus per bridge. And when you look at the cost of the materials, look at the difficulty of installation, we believe we can do this in-house with our own staff. So we can have, we've had our engineering staff talk about how they can help install this along with our maintenance staff. Essentially what it is, it's a product that you spread it out, you broom it around, you squeeze it around, and you apply some sand over it. and then, it seals up. So this product, it'll soak into the bridge deck, builds in some of the smaller cracks, seals up the surface, keeps that salt from penetrating into the deck and extends the longevity of it. So for, roughly 33,000 for this, there's gonna be some additional supplies that we needed. We'll have some, brooms and minor equipment costs that might add up another, $500 worth of material. Instead of getting 1 or 2 bridge decks done for this cost, we think we'll get 5 or 6 bridge decks done. And so it's gonna be a lot
Totally
cheaper.
makes sense what you want to do here. You're trying to do it in-house and you could do more bridges and this stuff works good. I've seen it work, so.
Does that scrape off with snow falls at all? Or is this, you say it penetrates the small cracks, but material on top maybe get. A little bit eventually.
A little of that sand, but for the most part, it stays.
It dries
stays
on, it
put.
adheres pretty good.
Yeah, it's
Snow
gonna-
falling scrapes off a lot of stuff. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you're not gonna get around that.
No.
yeah, when we look at the ones that have been done in the recent years, it's holding up really well.
So is this heated and then put down so it cool? I mean,
No,
if you're spreading it out, it's a liquid and it dries is the idea.
yes, yep, so it just dries with air. Depending on the temperature, it might take,
It's a sealant.
it might take an hour to dry, it might take half a day to dry, depending on the temperature when it's put down. So we'll need to, shut down a lane or maybe shut down the bridge as we go to do it for that short duration of time. But yeah, it just evaporates off.
It's a simple seal because 7 barrels, if you want to do 4 or 5 bridges, it's pretty thin. You're spreading it a long ways.
Yeah, 1 barrel we're anticipating should last about 1 bridge per barrel. These are the
I'm making motion to approve the purchase of this product for sealant for aggregate deck bridges.
Second? Further discussion?
Have you seen have we done it before? Have you seen other places that have done it?
We have not done it ourselves before. We have been out with the contractor as they've done it. And then we've also spoke with the state's bridge office, MnDOT's bridge office, many times about that, and they've kind of helped guide us along the way. So
The state.
yes.
Further questions, discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carry. Number 9. Consider approving request to attend the Oxbow Resource Technical Exchange in Fort Worth, Texas, from March 27th to 30th, 2023. The conference, hotel, and transportation will be paid by MnDOT state aid.
Yep. So I believe all you commissioners, or maybe the majority of you, are aware that I've been going through as the Minnesota County Engineers Association vice secretary, vice president, and this year I'm the president of the association. With that, MnDOT state aid has money set aside for the vice president and the president to attend 2 conferences. One of them is in Milwaukee, and then this one is in Fort Worth, Texas. They recommend always that the vice president, the president attend these 2 conferences. They're really good conferences, and paid for at the state. So the state will pay for, the flight down, the hotel, the conference itself. So it's pretty much no cost to the county other than my time away from the office. So, so the recommendation is to, or the request is to approve this, and they can get it set up to be paid for by the state, that attended here in late March. So I did look at the draft agenda that's out there. It looks like there's some really good sessions that's at this conference, and like I said, it's one of the top conferences in the nations.
So when you're down there in the sessions that you're talking about, are they? Well, there's a big difference between highways in Texas, Florida, and whatnot versus Minnesota. Do they have categories that you can go to for the upper Midwest versus going to?
This one really doesn't, but this one does, the sessions on, asphalt industry trends, material testing, staffing, aggregates. It's more more general in a lot of ways on the different stuff that does apply nationwide. When you get into some of the sessions, like at the NACE conference that I'll be going to, that one, they kind of have sessions, kind of southern states go to these sessions, the northern states go to these other sessions, but this one is more set up. It's stuff that's pretty uniform nationwide.
Talk about the grading of the asphalt as
I don't know that any of the sessions can go into that on the asphalt, just because that,
general.
yeah, so some of this is the asphalt industry trend. So where things have been, where things are going is what the stuff is on the asphalt. So, soils, it's getting into more in depth on the classifications and gradations of the aggregates and material testing and, that type of stuff. But asphalt is, my guess that that's a little bit more general just because, your gradation and how you do everything within pavement.
When you're down there, you're a representative for the state of Minnesota, not just you. Bringing information back to the other 86 counties
Yes.
for them as well. So I'd make a motion to approve the request since it doesn't cost the county hardly anything.
Motion is made. Is there a second? Further discussion?
So is there gonna be any discussion on the infrastructure bill that was recently passed on what the future looks like for projects?
On this agenda, I don't see anything on the infrastructure bill. I've been involved in a lot of meetings in that. So way too many.
Just curious.
Further question or comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried.
Thank you.
Anything else under the actions? It's none.
Brian, one question. You hear anything back from Silas?
I have not received a draft layout back or anything. We do have a meeting set up with the FAA that we're going to talk about our 5-year capital improvement program and stuff with them. They have extended the time slot, so we're going to meet to talk with them on that in over 2 weeks from now. So at that point, we'll have a better idea as far as what they're willing to work with the county on as far as, cost, land.
Okay, moving on, this one has to do with Allison. Would all commissioners like to attend the child care town hall meeting on February 7th? That's at the La Crescent Community Center, Event Center. Need a possible form. You can explain, Allison.
Sure. So the Houston County EDA was awarded a grant, and the grant is valued at $42,000. We've been working with Children's Finance and a core team of people throughout the county. So it's parents, people from schools. Commissioner Burns is on our core team. And we've been learning a lot about the childcare needs in our community. Tonight, we're actually having a childcare appreciation event with our providers. So we're going to appreciate them and gather some information from them. And then kind of our big capstone event is this town hall meeting. So some of the data collected will be presented, and then we'll also be working with the attendees, just gathering their feedback and doing some things like that. All of the cities and townships have been invited. It's open to the public. We're inviting businesses. The press is invited. It should be advertised in the local papers this week. So we're expecting a fairly good turnout. And I was just curious if we have more than 2 commissioners that are interested in attending. I could certainly advertise that there may be a quorum, but that no official business will be discussed. In the past, the commissioners had considered possibly allocating some ARPA dollars to go towards childcare. So this might be a good event to come to see if you still think that's worthwhile. If you're interested in attending, you can let me know now or at a later time and I can sign you up. A meal is being provided. It's paid for with grant funds. So that's why we want people to register. So it's at the La Crescent Area Event Center, Tuesday, February 7th and it starts at 6 p.m.
2 weeks from tonight, and This is the 31st. You needed a deadline for reservation type thing.
Yes, yep, we'd like everyone to register by next Tuesday. So again, I can sign you up if you're interested,
But you need earlier notice if there's gonna be a quorum.
which is why I'm asking today. Yes.
I guess I'm gonna be there, so.
Yep, and Dewey, you're signed up
I'm gonna,
and I will sign you up, Bob.
I said, now,
Does anyone else want to come?
I think I might,
Okay,
it's a might,
at 6 o'clock at night.
not past your bedtime.
I gotta get close.
I'm unsure if I can make it or not. We're gonna be out of town here, so. Hopefully we'll be back by then.
I guess out of safety, it looks like it might be 3, so
That's the first two.
be
the
the
month.
first,
I've got a council meeting, but after that's stop.
okay.
Might as well advertise for it.
Yeah, I'll just advertise that there may be a potential quorum and I will sign you up just so you get a reminder and we'll probably need the extra food anyway. We've had a lot of last minute signs up for this one, so I'll just.
Yeah,
sign
why
you up.
don't you say?
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
okay? Anything else on the Allison?
No, thank you.
Discuss possible date for setting up the work group sessions with Collaborative Design Group, where's memo came out from Tess indicating possibility of February 14th or 28th, Tess.
That is correct. They are finalizing, have met with and had feedback from, I believe, possibly every group, but have every department, including all those at the Justice Center. I know corrections just came in today, so they would like to go through that with you, talk about. They haven't given any detail on it, but talk about next steps, options, get feedback from the board. Because that would be very helpful for them before they take their next steps.
So we're gonna do this during an open meeting, right?
It'd be an open meeting.
So we
It's
can
just
do
that I suggested they come to a work session. And they will be here in person and just meeting back and forth.
a Work session is until.
First.
No, I was wondering if you could schedule a work session to work with them. It would be open, it would be published, but it would be in the format of a work session.
Basically kind of after our regular stuff, or do we want to stop an appointment? Because if we have other business going on, it would be late, but be nice to have our business done first.
Well, it'd be afterwards, and it's certainly the schedule, we can make something work for you. It's gonna take probably an hour, maybe a little longer. Maybe not so long. I mean, they have to read a lot of reporting back to do, and it wouldn't be in summary form. I understand it'd be actual back and forth and conversation about how to move forward. Possibly. I don't have any other details other than that.
Okay. Feelings of the board?
So we can just do it a continuation of the regular meeting, right? I mean,
Well, that's up
Or
to you.
you're asking
However,
you're for a separate meeting then, or you're asking to
Well,
be on
originally
the
I was-
agenda for discussion?
as originally I was trying to get them scheduled into one of your regular work sessions, and that just as they started looking at their calendar and your calendar, that was getting further and further out. That's the only reason I was suggesting maybe another work session. It can be at the end of your regular board meeting. As a regular board meeting, would not be decisions being made, but just feedback, and something a little more roundtable might be with them, might be more conducive to getting through some of the issues they have, but that's up to you. This is,
Well, I'd like personally look at the 14th and have it after our regular business meeting. Again, this would depend upon how much we end up getting on the items, but I would think we could possibly set at 10 o'clock on the 14th. That makes sense.
It would work for me on the 14th, not on the 28th.
it would work for you, Commissioner?
Yes,
Oh,
So we're gonna do it during our regular session at 10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock, after our, by then we have most of our stuff done.
So we're gonna we're gonna adjourn that meeting, then have another meeting. That's what I'm trying to figure out here is what.
I don't
Whatever
think we
is
need
the
to-
easiest.
We just did continuation and had a discussion. There's no action, just discussion.
Yeah, right.
Might need
Just
to buy-
discuss.
we might need to buy.
True, that too, but
They just, you know, when we set this up originally, a schedule, it was that the board would meet with them just as any department is meeting with them, except they're coming down to be in person to meet with the board.
Of course, if we
14 works.
set up a time, say, then they know when to be here. And we might have to wait for them to get here at 10 o'clock, or we may have to adjourn or say, well, we're running a few minutes. Within an hour, we would, in most cases, have it taken care of. That's it.
So we're going to adjourn?
Um,
I don't think you need
have
to.
to?
Well, you just said that. I was just.
A little discussion on our meeting, y'all.
During discussion items, we could just write 10 AM and then discussion with.
It'd be
collaborative.
continuation of their meeting.
And I will let them know that it could be between 10 and 10:30. But they'll be driving down from the cities.
Yeah, well, if we say 10 o'clock, that gives them, they know it's a 3-hour drive.
then
But I
what-
mean, if you come, if you have other business you're still in the middle of, they'll
they
understand.
might have to wait a little,
You might have to. Which is,
or we might get done early and we gotta wait.
Which
Why
is,
don't we make it 10:30 then, just so we have enough time.
I believe
get
two
through
people. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
We just get through our agenda and stuff.
I believe two, they're sending a team of 2 down.
What?
A team of 2,
Mhm.
Tamara Wiley and Johanna Harris.
They're here at 10 and they gotta wait, that's fine.
And who knows what the roads will look like that
Yeah.
day.
Whether it's this or a work group, it's open to the public, so. I mean, It doesn't
Absolutely.
make any difference, the press can stay, they can leave, whatever they want.
we just need to set a date and time.
14.
Okay.
Everybody, is that a consensus then to go for the 14th?
For me.
Thank you very much.
So are you having a,
Thank you.
are you having a meeting with them? Between them and yourself?
Well, I'm having my department summary meeting with them. And then they are also sending back. Will be letting me know where they're at with regards to collection and meeting with department heads and things.
Okay.
And that is tomorrow.
Very good. Let's see, updates. Basically, well, we had the department head meeting yesterday, and one of the main highlights was the assessor brought up that some changes when the Green Acres, when a buyer buys property, they're responsible for the last 3 years of credits. I guess it's not something. relatively new.
Payback of the,
Payback.
Yep.
Yeah. And
that's new.
so
That
that's-
just got recently changed, so and he's gonna send out a notice to all the lawyers' offices and realtors and stuff, so everybody's aware of it.
So I own my land for 25 years. I sell it, so I gotta pay back.
It used to be the seller would pay back the last 3 years. They've changed it now, Department of Revenue changed it to now the buyer has to pay it back. And re-up it if they want to continue green,
Pay back 3 years plus roll back.
if they want to, yeah.
If that's the buyer's responsibility, not the seller's, that's in the past, they understood it.
I don't know that they have to pay it back if they re-enroll.
Well, that's just, if it's gonna be, if same, like in kind or whatever, then they don't have to do anything. But it's the buyer's responsibility,
Right.
it's not the seller. It
Correct.
used to be always the seller, now it's the buyer.
Okay, I was at city council meeting last night for the city of La Crescent. They're working on some drafts for a UTV and ATV ordinance and within the city there. It was quite vivid discussions in the first draft, there's gonna be a lot of changes but there's looking at that. As I was listening to John here this morning, I made a note about, having a meeting this afternoon at Fillmore County and, some of their priorities, we got that list and, this child mental health thing, I think should be something that we ask them to look closer at, of trying to help us, or help all counties, not just us, get something going for that, because, unfortunately, we're seeing things in the younger folks that makes you wonder, and if we can try and nip it in the butt before it becomes an issue, I think that's important. It happens to, I guess, any age with that deal, but that's one of the things I'm suggesting that we look at for priorities. And we meet at 1 o'clock over at Mabel. It'll be a did we set a separate meeting, or how did you set that up with Bobby on that?
I think I think it's just gonna be. We advertise that directly following the meeting, there will be a joint special meeting, and I will take notes on that separately. But I think Fillmore County just has it all advertised as one, which it's fine either way.
Okay,
But it's definitely noticed.
call it a continuation, or for lack of a better word, but we're gonna be talking about this afternoon. Got a WinLAC meeting coming up Thursday night. And public hearing there on some of the policies that have been developed. Thursday afternoon, we have a Zoom with the WKDA. I get my initials right there. Anyway, them folks
Comprehensive.
on the comp plan, so that'll be 2 o'clock on Zoom. Basically what I have. Here,
Yeah, I was here yesterday too for the department head meeting. We stuck out there, but there was a lot of stuff discussed. A lot of talk of what's coming down in legislation. Had a conversation with AMC last Friday with Matt Hilgard on the legalizing cannabis and CBD stuff, and they're working hard trying to get guidelines put into that. If that gets passed through, to have guidelines for local municipalities and counties, how to deal with that, but right now as it stands, there's nothing in there. And I recently realized or found out too that if this gets passed, it's not going to be able to be regulated by local control. It's going to be all state regulated. So
it could,
no, I'm waiting for confirmation from Matt on that. I've read that in a couple articles. Minneapolis paper, Min Post, Star Tribune, but because of it's a state, going to be a state. They're going to have an office of cannabis or whatever to regulate, to oversee this whole thing. It's all going to be state controlled. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Another thing too, I think we need to have a policy for review our policies for HR, public, and for our employee policies and stuff. We need that, get that stuff going on updating. And in a situation like this, for like we just appointed a Cindy Wright to the planning commission, I think HR should respond or give a letter back to Mr. Glasspool that he did not get just a friendly notice saying that you were not chosen, but to please apply again and thank you for whatever. I know because yep, just a courtesy letter, I think. And then when we dropped the STS program, Craig never found out. He found out through his employer that it was being dropped. I think we should have made an effort as a county board to reach out to him personally. So I think I'd like to see HR stay on top of that and issue a notice with the county board on that. So. That's all I got.
Okay, Bob, Vern?
Well, Jake Dixon is sitting here. He's a city of Caledonia administrator. And did you see the moratorium, potential moratorium that Attorney Yant had put together in conjunction with the attorney for Fillmore County? Whether or not we do that would require, of course, public hearing and whatnot. As I understood it, the moratorium would be countywide, including the cities. And then like the city of Caledonia would have to come up with their own separate set of licensure and restrictions and whatnot in order to opt out of the county moratorium. You understand it that way, Jake?
Yeah, and
Would you come on up?
Yeah.
you gotta be on camera and then we
Yeah,
can
okay.
hear you.
There you go. Welcome.
We had our first reading of the THC licensing ordinance last night. So, just because we had been, I guess, kind of dumped into this on July 1st of last year, and we've been keeping somewhat of an eye on and expecting the state to pick up really early this year to fix kind of what they got us into with this. But I don't see it happening until at least July 1st of this year. So we had a reading of a THC licensing ordinance last night that would set up our background check process or compliance check process. We didn't get into zoning much. We just used the same 500 feet from a school that we have in our alcohol ordinance, because our guidance from the League of Minnesota Cities was to treat this like tobacco, but the sentiment, at least a couple blocks away here, is that we obviously want to go stricter than tobacco, but we don't feel justified in going more strict than alcohol because we just don't see it, I guess, a legally justifiable way to do it like that. So we borrowed pretty heavily from a few cities. And then at the request of our police department, we added in a training in lieu of suspension or a penalty, because you have basically 3 violations before revocation is possible. But we have it set up so that our police department can go in and train these businesses instead of suspending their license or revoking their license. So it's, I would say, decently comprehensive just on the bare licensing side of it, but the regulation, like you said, Commissioner, is completely up to the state and it's out of our hands, and we don't know what that's going to look like. Except right now, the lack of local controls and what's proposed is pretty worrying, because one of those provisions in there is that states or cities don't get the choice to not allow THC sales in their jurisdiction.
You can't ban it. You can't have a moratorium. You're not allowed to do a moratorium or ban it.
Yeah, and then it looks as though there's some possibility that they're not gonna allow us to exercise our zoning control. If that's the case, I think the league's lobbyists will have a lot to say about that, because if they take away our local control over zoning, that's not gonna work. So on one hand, people say this could be done by May, and some people say it won't be done for 2 years. And we just don't know, so we're doing our side of it now. Or at least anticipating that it'll pass.
Now, I don't understand the part where we cannot have a moratorium. Because we can be more restricted than the state, but we cannot be less restricted.
I'm referring to the cannabis part, not the.
Is that how you understand it?
Yeah.
Not the edible part. I think we can on the edible maybe, or not.
Well, so as far as I understand it right now,
There-
that proposed moratorium, if we're talking about the same one, because I read about one they did in Otter Tail County. I don't know if that's one everybody here saw, but that, as far as I understand, is all good to go right now. But yeah, as far as I understand the bill that's proposed, it just precludes cities from banning the sale of cannabis. So I don't know that that's the route that the city of Caledonia wants to go, but just the thought of that local control being taken away is concerning.
Well, there's couple of questions I have as far as local control, you know, they say that we can't or do anything locally. You know, we have situations where they go in and send an underage youth in to buy liquor and alcohol and stuff, and then that's kind of a sting thing. Can't we do that with this kind of stuff that we send an under, you know, not we, but I mean that during a investigation, they send underage or and do that type of thing? That
Yeah.
would be possible, wouldn't it?
We have, so the ordinance that they got the first read of last night, that once, you know, we'll publish the summary publication, all that, have a hearing. I haven't worked out the math. It'll be in the first, second meeting in February, but we have, there's a provision in that ordinance that says that our police department will conduct a compliance check at least once a year at every business. So that would be that collaborating with somebody to make sure that their ID checking process is compliant. But then because of all the restrictions that are in place from this last bill, as far as what the packaging can look like, what the actual product can look like, and the ingredients being on the package and things like that, there's a lot more to the compliance check than there is with, like with tobacco. The compliance is just making sure they're checking IDs and that the product is behind the counter. Whereas this law is much more restrictive, so our compliance check has to be a lot more comprehensive. But we still have that freedom and we'll exercise that.
And it's gonna depend on what the state does. From a compliance point of view, 5 milliliters, 50 milliliters per package and whatnot, and what's in the product itself, how much is actually in the product. There's gotta be testing facilities that the state's gonna put together that we can get them tested at. And not something that's gonna take 6 months to get back the information.
Well, I would
Good
say,
luck with that, I know.
yeah, I think just from what I've read and what I've heard, the likelihood is that it'll be passed before the end of this first session here and would probably go into effect July 1st, but the state won't be ready to do their end of this for at least a year or maybe 2. Is the creation of an entire agency and then taking the power, the very small amount of power that one agency got, and moving it to a new agency. It takes some time. But that's why we just, like I said to our council last night, is we didn't ask for this. It just kind of got handed to every city, and basically every city is doing something different. So it's on one hand a very exciting time to be in city government, but it's hard when there's no right answer.
Well, my concern on all this is public health. Safety for the kids. I mean, we're already seeing 1,000% increase in I don't know what you want to call it, overdoses or poisoning from kids eating these edibles. It's the dangerous situation, and I'm a little disappointed with MDH and their lack of input on this. They don't want to say anything. Just sit back and let it happen. I mean, that's the part that worries me, is the health and safety and welfare of our youth and children.
It's gotta be 21, right? But they're buying animals?
Yep. But
That's where the city's at, and that's where we're at, I think.
Yep.
We're gonna discuss the moratorium with Fillmore County this afternoon after the regular collaboration.
I have a couple of questions that we'll reserve for that time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anything else, Mr. Byrne?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We are getting by that easy. We had a finance committee meeting this morning, which was it's early in the year, so right now they're wrapping up the end of the year. They're still waiting for the final receivables and payables and whatnot to come in and get that squared away, but it doesn't look like we're in too bad a shape as far as the county is concerned. From last the Spring Grove Ambulance Co-op meeting in Spring Grove last week. That was interesting, just a discussion of what they can do in order to help make their ambulance have more people on their ambulance board, which there was some people there that have possibly signed up, but some kind of coordination with Caledonia and Spring Grove. They already have a working relationship as far as covering each other's hours that are not covered by people that have signed up. The next thing I wanted to mention was I'd like to give Lucas kudos for his what he did with the state of Minnesota with regard to valuations of residential property. Last year, as we all remember, the valuations in property went up at least 20%, in some areas up to 50%. State of Minnesota got a hold of the assessor's office and said, well, you gotta go up another 24%. Lucas put together the information on a study as far as what housing prices are, where we're at. We meet their criteria already, we shouldn't have to raise property values. And lo and behold, the state of Minnesota acquiesced and agreed with Lucas, so they're not gonna be raising residential property values next year. And Lucas ought to get a heck of a kudos for that.
He went to bat for the county and he wanted his. There will be increases for older homes from 1942 and older. And there's gonna be some farmland increases because of recent sales.
But the residential part of it, for the most part, he was successful. That. Did you read Fillmore County's 2023 legislative priorities?
Yep.
6 pages of legislative priorities. Do we have any? That we put together. I wrote down a bunch as far as what I consider a priority.
I think that's the idea of having a meeting today.
Yeah.
Work in conjunction with them.
To put our ideas with their ideas.
It's just that their ideas are pretty big. Damn impressive as far as what they got put out on paper.
But they started something that we have and
Yeah.
they're let's share it.
Well, they've always had a meeting with their rep, with Davids and Miller too.
And I also kind of bothered me a little bit that we never have.
Well, last year we got one, I invited Davids, he came and Miller couldn't make it, but
Yeah.
that's something we gotta plan ahead because the legislative session starts right after the first years. They gotta do it in December.
I agree with most everything that Fillmore County's got on there. I didn't see where they got anything about gun control. As far as assault rifles and clips and what, permitting sale of firearms and registration.
Probably because it's not on the AMC's radar as far as
But it's on my radar.
and
So
That we can add
then
it.
you as an individual could contact your,
we as a county aren't,
we want
okay,
more gun control or less?
I say more. Look at the weekend, 67 people got shot in different things over. Yeah.
So we,
Anyways.
it doesn't, we can discuss it this afternoon. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
maybe even add it to it, would they disagree with us adding something like that?
We
That's
don't
all.
have to, we don't have to
We
mirror.
can come up with our own if you'd like.
I was gonna bring that up last week. We were running late on our
Yeah.
group thing.
And the last thing I got a question is for Tess, as long as she's here. Have we got the Selco contract back for our signature yet?
Not that I'm aware of. I will follow up on that.
Okay. Because I know all the libraries have signed it, but I don't know where the contract is for our signature. Or your signature.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Right?
Control. I had a human services orientation yesterday that went long and informative. That was good. And then I had a Zoom meeting yesterday on that watershed that I'm alternative on. That good.
The Winlac one?
Yeah, the one that you're going to the meeting on. So. And then we're set for a jail meeting next week, Dewey and I, and sounds like Brian's been doing some homework on that. Sheriff Sweatford has been doing some homework on that. Where he's gonna have some things where they might be able to recategorize stuff. Some good information coming there.
Very good. Anything else, Bob, then?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Greg? I just had the meeting in Spring Grove with Bob. He pretty much commented on everything, so, I'm good. Bermsey.
As long as Jake is still here, City of Caledonia is having a public hearing on Caledonia Street Project. The 31st, Tuesday night, the 31st at 7 o'clock. I'm not gonna be able to be there,
All right.
but just for information, they're gonna about that as well.
Should we confirm it?
Mary, you gotta mute
Mary,
yourself.
you're on. We got me.
I'm sorry.
It's, it was our second neighborhood meeting of three, this one's focusing more on utilities. Whereas the first one is on the general layout of the project. But yeah, 31st at 7 o'clock.
When do you propose that going out for bid?
February 1st. Is,
Week from tomorrow.
we approved it last night, so we'll advertise February 1st through, and then we receive them until this 22nd at 10 a.m.
And when that's, if it's accepted and the project goes forward, the adjoining property owners can put it on their tax rolls.
Good.
The replacement of the water lines to copper lines going into the buildings. Is that an add? That's an add to the project.
Yeah, we'll assess up to the property line, but into the house, yeah, that's on the owner.
So they'll have an additional cost of cutting a hole in the wall, bringing the pipe in and rehooking up to their system.
As of right now, that's how we have it set.
And has your engineer updated your cost estimate based on current prices?
That's what we'll see at the neighborhood meeting. And then we are, just because it's relevant, we're not assessing until October now. Because we have a soil contamination risk in there. And we have, 120,000 set aside for that contamination. If there is no contamination, that cost will just drop out of the project budget entirely, whereas if we assessed it May, when the project is supposed to start, everybody be paying for that, and it might not be an actual cost. So we wanted to wait until the fall to assess, so we know what the project actually costs and give people a fair assessment.
Thank you.
So you bring the water up to my property line, then I gotta pay,
Well, so that I misspoke earlier, a lot of these products or buildings are on the property line with zero setback. So what we will do is have our side actually bore through the foundation and then get there. It's just the plumber has to come in on the inside and make the connection. And a lot of times, in a lot of those older buildings, that means removing a gooseneck in the service, replacing everything with copper. And then because we have to comply with the lead service line registry and all that states imposed on us, this is a great opportunity to get a count of those things and then replace them so we don't have to worry about it in the future. But like with every road project, when you're dealing with private property, there's no easy way to go about this. But we will have two more, this next neighborhood meeting at 31st and another one in the springtime where all these questions can be answered. We had a good attendance last month, so I'm hoping we'll get more people, because if we don't know what the questions are, we can't answer.
Thank you. I'm done.
anything else?
Greg, were you done? I just want. I'm gonna be gone this Saturday till February. And so I won't be able to make the extension committee meeting. It's the first Thursday of the month. So Greg, you'll have to go to that. Down here. Yep, it's at the extension building. There's also a Root River watershed meeting on the 30th, Monday. Bob, are you the alternate for that?
I believe I am.
Oh, you are. Okay. You could go to that if you want, if you don't, it won't work for you. That's fine too.
It's in the
30th, Monday morning, 9:30 at Preston. Check. Yep.
Commissioners, just one
It's
more.
at 6 o'clock Thursday night usually.
There's, oh, okay.
Actually, no, 7 o'clock, sorry, 7 o'clock Thursday evening. Sorry, Donna.
No,
Go
I
ahead, Donna.
I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Are you finished? Okay.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay, there's the Association of Minnesota Counties Legislative Conference that Eric and Bob are going to. Does anyone else want to go? Today is the last day to sign up. You'd have to, I think the two of them are leaving on February 21st, checking in, and it's Wednesday, so that'll be on a Tuesday. The conference is Wednesday and Thursday. And you check out on Thursday and come home on Thursday, the 23rd.
Won't be able to go on 22nd. I have something.
yeah,
Okay,
I have to go because I'm on the state extension committee, so that's on Thursday.
okay. I just wanted to know if anybody else would be interested because I did make Bob's and Eric's reservation, but if anybody else wants to go, I can surely make theirs as well.
Guess I better report that I'm gone from the 31st of January through through the 4th of February. I don't have any meetings scheduled for them. I don't leave until after the Tuesday meeting, so. I'm not missing anything.
We shouldn't be.
For a lot of time.
Yeah, you're-
Oh, okay. Anything else? Closing public comment. Anybody wish to address the board? Deputy Ott, you came back, or was there something we,
He's here for a personnel meeting.
personnel, okay, click. All right, no public comment? Anything else? Entertain a motion to adjourn? So moved. I got Eric, who is the second? For discussion, all in favor, say aye. Adjourn.